Um, we'll just wait for a couple more minutes before we get into it. If there's any hot topics you guys want me to address off the top, put it in the comments, and I'll give my 2 cents before we get into tonight's agenda. There's always some hot topic going on, so you never know. I'll just give my 2 cents, not much. I can't afford much more. Um, it looks like that may be it for the night. Let's give it a couple more minutes. Tonight, we're gonna have debate, a debate between myself and Khalil Brown on native versus hybrid for meat production. If you guys remember, a few weeks ago, Khalil put out a post about native goats and the advantages of using native goat in a meat production. And I had my little, what do you call it, counter argument to it. So I figured tonight I'll bring him on and he and I can have a debate and a back and forth on it and have some fun. I don't know, and it's not a right or wrong or a native or hybrid, but we're just gonna put out the advantages and disadvantages, and people can choose what they want. But I think it would be a fun debate between myself and Khalil. We always have great conversations on iGoat chat and even when he visits the farm. So this should be fun. Without further ado, I'll introduce Mr. Khalil. Khalil,
Hey, what's up, Ray?
you are the big man.
I'm not here, yo. Repeat.
You are the big man.
I'm on me, the small man.
You are the big man, Gretchen. You are the
The only thing when I see I get big on my belly.
yeah, but that's not, but me have, you have a good friend when see a video what there and say, hold on, Khalil I live big life. I put on a little bit.
That little bit of weight, old age.
Yeah.
Prepare for the old age.
Yeah, back in the day when them say big belly man I carry this thing, big belly man have money. I notice when you take on big job, face I get little puffy, me know say and the feed you eat.
And the feet, you have to taste the feet to make
Can
sure
I
say
eat
it good.
it?
It's a lack of exercise, man. No longer in the field.
Yeah.
Not one
Nobody
more.
sees you around anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
In time, I have to kind of settle in right, make sure I have everything under control
Yeah,
before we can.
it's been a while since
Yeah, a
I've
couple
seen you come around.
January.
January
Yeah,
was the last time you come here?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
That was the last time I was actually in, like couple days after I
Through this
leave
year
um,
April. Through this year April. I think
April of this year.
yeah, I think right before the the grazing thing because you drop off a package.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I was making reference to say boy like doing work in the field.
Oh, in the field? Nah.
Yeah,
I
like
haven't
about
seen
January.
you haven't come here on work thing for a while.
Yeah,
You've been locked
yeah.
up in your air conditioned office and your cushion high back chair. You know those office chairs?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Office too. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's good to see you. Welcome back to iGo Chat. You're a
Yeah.
pioneer of iGo Chat. I think you're the first guest, the
I
real
remember that.
first guest.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So
I remember that sitting down inside the kitchen and saying, "Hey, what we going to do?" And you're like, "Hey, I'm going to do." I get to some streaming. I'm like, I get to some vlogs.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep,
That's it. Yeah, that was it.
yep.
That was it. That's how everything
That's where
started.
everything started. There, right here, in this kitchen. This kitchen is come up with some great ideas, and you've been a part of a lot of them. We've had some robust discussions right here at this table. All right. So since you're the guest and you're so, you know, distinguished in the sector, I'm gonna let you tell the people why you think native goats has an advantage in meat production.
Okay, okay. All right, we can start there, I
Yeah.
guess. So I guess this is our starting arguments, guys.
Yep.
Um, what I want to put out there is that I like this term, adaptive genetics. And for me, a lot of people do pay attention to adaptive genetics because we're always thinking about moving forward with production. So yes, we get this natural genetics given by Mother Nature, and we try to fine tune it, we domesticate it to how we want it. But at the end of the day, we forget that the foundation came from those adaptive genetics. And that's what I think the native goat represent. A genetic pool that we can't pay for. A genetic pool that is underutilized and not garnered in the right way to show how is it that this advantage of mother nature, the advantage mother nature give us is we should use it to our best. So I'm not here to bash the hybrid goat. I'm saying that there should be a combination, or there should be, just like in the Bible with Jacob, where they were saying either the spotted calf or the spotted sheep or something like that. And he learned how to breed those spotted sheep. And then the day he walk away with all of the guys them herd. It's something very similar. I think Jamaica should take us. We should use that native animal to build our foundation and to create that perfect meat goat, and not look to the hybrid animals that come from overseas alone as the standalone production animal. So even before we had this conversation, I was looking at a paper because there's a little data on the native goat. A paper written by David Millan and the late Derek Vermont, and they did some characterization of the native goat. And in the conclusion, and I would start with the conclusion is that yes, this native goat body frame is smaller, but we cannot throw away the advantage of what that genetic pool has created for us, where you have a low production animal that can still produce the product that we want, which is meat. So that is my starting argument for your.
Okay. All right. Okay. You make some solid points, but one number one thing that I'll rebut is once you start adding stuff, adding genetics to the native goat, it's not a native
Mhm.
anymore.
All right, I would kind of disagree with that.
It
I
is.
get what you're
It
saying.
ain't, man.
I get what you're saying.
It's a
When you
local.
look at
It's a local
when,
hybrid. If you intentionally
Mhm.
inject
Yes.
um a Boer or Nubian or Kiko or whatever genetic in your native herd, then it's no longer a native. The offspring is no longer a native animal. Hello? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. It looks like I lost Khalil. Let's give him a couple minutes. I don't want to do my big argument and if he's not on. Let's give him a minute to come back in the fold. So yeah, it looked like he may be having some internet issues. Let's give him a couple minutes to come back in. I'll see when he gets back in the green room. So I will add him. But my point that I was making is it's not a native goat anymore. If if you if you inject a board genetics, Nubian or even Kiko genetics in there, if it happens in the wild and evolve accordingly, natural nature select and the fittest of the fittest survive, then of course you don't have a choice. But that's how the native goat was developed in Jamaica. It's natural selection, natural survival. But if you have a herd and put inject the other genetics in there, then it's not a native anymore. It's a hybrid. It is not a native animal anymore, and that is my position right off the top with that. So I will wait until he gets back. Let's see. And he spoke of the documentation that he read. I have that documentation, and we're gonna talk. We're gonna go through it tonight. We're gonna go through it, or at least speak about the summary of this research that they did. The number one thing is the hardiness of the native goat. The hardiness. However, the growth rate, meat to bone ratio, is a disadvantage, a major disadvantage. Let me see what happened with Kali. Most likely his phone's dead or something. Let me see if I can call him. Or he doesn't have any power. No response. Give us a minute. Let me see if I can. Yes, sir. You lose power? That's what I thought. You try get on your phone? Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay, all right, cool. Yeah. So I thought. Welcome to Jamaica. Okay, let me see if I can address some of these comments. Um, Howard says, good point, Ray, but are you improving the native or the hybrid to function optimally in this environment? Food for thought. Well, the discussion and debate we're about to have tonight is native as they are, native goats as they are. What are the advantages in a meat production operation? Is there any advantage? Yes, there are. Hardiness. Um, I think that's it as far as I'm concerned. Hardiness is a broad term because hardiness mean they can survive in the environment. They convert the natural forage around them. They have a faster conversion rate, right? So, but outside of that, even them converting it, surviving on less, but they don't give you more meat. and they take longer to get to the quote unquote market weight. They take too long for it to be a viable meat operation. Nobody don't want to wait a year and a half for a goat to get to a decent weight. It's not viable as far as I'm concerned. We'll see if Khalil comes back. All right. Um, the taste of the meat. Main advantage is the preference in regards to the taste of the meat. Okay, let me give my 2 cents on the taste of the meat. The reason it's so distinct is because these goats are mature goats and them already start wet up themselves. And once them start wet up themselves and go through a few breeding cycles, you can get that smell out. And once you process it, it just end up being there. If you do the same with a mature Nubian or a mature Boer or a mature hybrid, you will get that smell. I'm telling you that facts because we've done it. We have done it. The reason that smell is there is because it's a mature animal that's wetting up himself. So Davil, let's see what Davil says. It's a long message. I do believe the native goats should be preserved as they have great advantages. For example, they are hardier and they do show non-seasonal breeding characteristics. They have survived under extreme harsh conditions if the native goat is a mix with any other. Mixed with any other goat, it's classified as a native, but soon I do believe we will have graded goat as our native animal as they will build those resistance, hence graded will take the place of the native. I strongly believe that we should preserve the native goat. I think there's a place for all of these different breeder goats. Native goat, if you want the goat for a hobby, or how as a youth we had like 8 or 12 native goat get processed birthday, Christmas, all them things. That works. But if you're doing a real goat meat operation, the native goat is not gonna work. Definitely not gonna work because of how long it takes to get them to market weight with the same input that you would put in for a hybrid animal. And hybrid mean mix, graded animal. The taste, I don't know if it tastes any different. Because here's the thing: if you're processing animals, goats for meat, and you want to sell really good goat meat, you want to process it 8 months under a year for have good tender goat meat, right? But if you want to deliver what Jamaicans are used to, then you have to wait till a goat get to year and a half, 2 years. When when he becomes mature enough to start peep at himself and wet up himself, then you get that smell, and that smell goes into the meat when you process it. And it becomes a combo of whatever that the natives are so popular for. But you can't wait. If you want to deliver a good meat, you can't wait a year and a half for a goat to get to market weight. We still don't have Khalil. Khalil lost power and he was trying to get on via his phone, but it doesn't look like that's happening. So it looked like I'm on my own unless somebody out here wants to jump on and take Khalil's place. I don't know who's watching wants to jump on and take Khalid's place, I can share the link to become a guest if you so please. JP is saying that not really the quality is different. Meat is more dense or compact, with others tend to be beef like. Here's Khalil. Yes, sir.
We're not even 8 hours.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's me. You know, message. So, give me a few and make you
Yeah, we're here.
yeah, man, all right.
All right, cool. Um, yeah, I don't know if you guys agree with JP, then chime in and let us know. But from my experience, I really don't see the difference. We've processed native, we've processed Nubian, we've processed Boer, we've processed a lot of graded, and really and truly at that 8 month, 9 month, under a year thing, I don't think we can tell the difference. Once you get mature, though, you can tell the difference because the mature goat, as I said, start with up themselves. Here's one of the reasons why we do iGoat chat and why we started. See, Dane Campbell says, I'm in Canada, migrated here, just seeing you guys on YouTube. I was encouraged, so I started to build a goat house. One problem I run into as far people offloading animals that is considered not good. Are we talking about prairie larceny? Oh, offloading animals that's oh, I get it. I, I don't know if I want to get into that tonight. It's like an initiation thing they do with new farmers. Nobody wants to. Well, I wouldn't say nobody, but they tend to take advantage of newcomers, of new farmers who are starting out. I've been through it. Many people have been through it. You know what I mean? They take advantage of you. They give you a 6 for a 9. So, all I can tell you, Dane, is find yourself reputable people to surround you and mentor you, and just don't randomly go out and buy goats. All right, let's go back to the topic. Um, Up Top Farm says native goat kid them survive. Well, you don't have to vaccinate them. They take less medication because they're hardier, they're tougher, they're more used to the environment. You know what I mean? They 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 can handle like worm load. They can handle that better than the hybrid or the exotic goats. But the question is not how hardy they are. We know how hardy they are. The question is, do they really work for a meat production operation? Is it viable? How many native goats do you really need to have in order to have a profitable business? Knowing how slow they grow, knowing that when you process a goat at a dressed meat, you're getting more bone than meat, or sometimes more belly than meat. If a native goat we've had that experience, native goat weigh 90 pounds or whatever, and we barely get 40 pounds of meat. head big and heavy, foot heavy, belly big and heavy. It doesn't make sense. It is counterproductive. That's just my experience. And there is data, and there's a standard by which you have to go by when it comes to what you call the dress, when you process the animal and the dress meat, how much, what's the ratio. And if you can't get more meat out of the total body weight, live weight, then it doesn't make sense. Um, so here's another comment from JP. I guess he's advising Dane best to buy goats when a farm is selling and go and pick the best. Person won't be keeping the best and selling the worst. I'm one person, I tell you right now, if I'm in the process of, like, if I have a group of kids and I need replacement does, I'm keeping the best ones. I'll put it out there in the public right now. I am keeping the best ones. I cannot sell the best ones and expect my operation to succeed. And if you talk to any reputable breeder or anybody, like, they keep the best ones because that's what makes their system great. That's what makes them good. That's what makes them a top breeder. They select and keep the best replacement does or replacement buck. You can't sell the best all the time. Then you end up with subpar animals. So people need to understand that. Um, yes, Mr. Magnificent. If you're in Khalil's area, I guess he lost power. He hasn't been back. But yeah, I was saying, if you add any genetics to the native, it's not native anymore. It's a hybrid animal, unless it naturally happens out in the wild and evolve as such. You can be native and add genetics to it and it remain native. And somebody suggests that graded may end up being Jamaica native goat eventually, but maybe it's evolution. Maybe it's what is meant to happen. I don't know. Javian says, how you raise goats can either make them stronger or soft. Too much pampering deny the ability to build a natural resistance. A little stress is shown in studies to build overall resistance and longevity. That is true. That is true. When when our goats are out there in the pasture and rain start fall, first thing I do is look at the weather map or whatever weather app and say, oh, how long this rain's gonna fall. If it says it's gonna fall for about an hour and then whatever, then they stay out there. If it says it's gonna fall for the rest of the day, then I bring them in because it don't make no sense. They're just gonna stand there. But liquor rain not kill them. Them need to get wet. You know. So here Anthony says, keeping the best and selling the rest is the only way to improve. Yep. And people need to understand it. Good question, oddly. At what age does one decide his mature ram belongs in the slaughterhouse? Well, here is when he's done his job, when he's exhaust his presence on the farm. That means if we continue to use him, he may be, start working his sister or his, all that, his kids, all that. No. So when the ram, this is my personal opinion, when the ram exhausts himself on the farm, meaning he's been used so long and so often that there's a good chance inbreeding may be taking place, he needs to go. In some well fine-tuned operation like the farm we visited in Canada, they change their herd sire every year. Every year. Every year they're shopping for a new buck and selling the one they had. So that's like rapid improvements for them. And they don't have to worry about them breeding. I will say it seems the whole St. Catherine is out of power. That's unfortunate because we're going to have an amazing show tonight with Khalil. We're going to dig into some things. But I guess I'll have to take a rain check, you know, because I think it's a debate that would have been fun to have. And I think you guys would have got some value out of it. Because, for myself, I only talk about my experiences or factual documentation that I've reviewed. And Khalil is a wealth of knowledge as he already referenced a document that I have when what they did a research on the native goat, characterization of the native goat, David Miller and Derek Vermont, livestock research and improvement, research and development division, Bodles. Yeah, they wrote a whole document on the native goat, research and published the document. It's very interesting. Um, Coil Heron, if I pronounce that right, he says, I specialize in graded goat, however, I buy and sell native goats. From this, I have experienced mature goats with kids at 2 months take ram numerous times. So I think that's another advantage as they procreate at a faster rate. And so over a period of time, they can sustain a quite decent meat market at a lower cost of production. Um, that's a good point. I don't know. I don't know about the practice of goats getting getting pregnant after 2 months, but the native goats them seem to do it in an open herd situation. It happens, right? My only issue is how long it takes them to get to market. That's my only issue. My main issue is how long I don't know if you can use the word pure native goat take to get to market, you know? And if you let them go, like you have 50 acres and you let go your natives and let them do their thing, they'll constantly breed and all of that. However, it takes so long for them to get to market weight that in a real commercial operation, you need hundreds and thousands of them to be able to meet your demand. Um, This gentleman, Flash Media, says he's new and he wants to know how do I go about mixing with high quality goats. Go go buy yourself a full blood boer or purebred Nubian or a highly graded hybrid animal buck and let him work your herd. And that's how you mix it. That's how you start getting hybrid animals in your herd and you get more meat to bone ratio and you get faster growing kids. That's how you do it. The document. Maybe um I'm gonna see if I can post it. Maybe I can figure out how to post it in iGoat chat on the Facebook page or something. And Mr. One Magnificent asking about the native document and how. Let me see if I can figure out how to post it. This is what it looks like. Let's start at the top. Tell me if you guys can see it. I know you guys are reading it. If you're reading it, let me know if you're reading it. Wow. If you're on a phone, you're not gonna be able to read this. So you're on a laptop or something, then you'll be able to read it. But this is what the document is, and I'll give you the end where that Khalil referenced when he was on. Um, right here where it says conclusion. Right here where it says conclusion. The native goat, although small in comparison to the exotic breeds, have their place in contributing to the genetic pool because of their hardiness and ability to survive and produce under low input conditions. Steps need to be taken to ensure that as a genetic resource they are conserved. Further analysis of the data need to be done, but due to time constraints and the heavy demand on the biometrician, it was not possible at this time. So I guess they wanted to do more research on it, but resources run out, whether it's time and money or something. But yeah, but it's a really interesting document. Hmm? Who? Oh, somebody posted a link to it? Great. There you go. So you guys can go to that link and download the document, or I'm sure it can be downloaded, and you will find a lot of information on the native goat. This was done in 1996. sure the native goat has evolved quite a bit since. You don't see a lot of them on the street anymore. Um, so, any other questions since we can't get into this debate? Doesn't make sense. I keep talking about it without a rebuttal from Khalil. So, if you have any other questions or any odd topics that you want me to address, let's dig in and get it out, or I will call it a early night and you know find something to do entertaining. I'm sure that Trudy can entertain me. Hmm? Who has a comment? Where is it? Okay, Javian says, if you have a meter, it's always good to try and have different breeds in the herd. Native should definitely be part of such operation. My opinion is in Jamaica, if you're doing a meat operation, the ideal meat coat in Jamaica is a hybrid with native as its foundation. To me, that's my opinion. Because you get the hardiness, you get that feed conversion rate from the native, and for some reason, natives are so conditioned to the environment and they pass it on. So to me, an amazing hybrid meat herd, Jamaican hybrid. You know what I mean? You know, like you know how in Jamaica you have mix up people. You know what I mean? Just like that. You know what I mean? And it will work because you get the hardiness and you get the growth rate and you get the conversion rate and it can work on the less input than if you're dealing with purebred, full blood, etc. So when the conversation about meat, goat, and all them things, we already have good meat goat in Jamaica. I think this is my humble opinion. Seeing we have we have them and we have the know-how to create them. Graded goats they're everywhere right now, and they're affordable compared to the purebred, full blood, and all them. So if you're in meat, just get hundreds of hybrid graded goats. Oh, yep, yep. That's what I say. That's true. Well, um, Khalil was gonna give you the advantages of using native in your meat production. However, you know, JPS will give you a fight. So he lost power, and apparently it's St. Catherine, Kingston affected. So we can't we have no control over that. So I think what we'll do is we'll reschedule that debate, and it should be more entertaining the next time around. We'll draw from way more upon Khalil. Don't tell him I said that. Um, Sir Joke said they only have hardiness. Growth rate is zero. Bam! That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know, Connor. Connor, we already had that earlier. I don't know if the meat is tastier. I think most of the the native goats we eat when we go out dance and they are mature goats that peep up themselves. Hmm? Hmm? Oh, you eat the horn? Is that the horn? Guys hear it? Okay, yeah. Hmm? Um, so yeah, I don't know if the meat is much tastier. Well, I assume that there's got to be some difference in the meat, slight difference. However, I don't think it's that much of a difference for us to say, oh, that's Boer goat, that's Nubian, that's native. I think the distinct difference is the fact that we always been processing mature native ram goat. And you know, it's a native ram goat kind of way more potent with for them thing, and it's in the skin, it's in everything. So when you process it, you can't escape it. But if they get processed less than a year, 8 months, you won't get that smell, and you won't have that potent, distinct distinctiveness about the meat. Um, Here's a good question. Richard wants to know what's my opinion to promote Kiko with our native instead of Boer, since think Kiko has similar traits. So some research have shown that Kiko has more meat to bone ratio, hence why they're considered a better meat animal based on the fact that they're hardier than Boers. Now, will Kiko survive in Jamaica? They should, based on the similarities with the native. All we got to do is try it. The government imported some Kiko here, so we will see. Let's see if they sustain a Kiko herd that they can disperse to local farmers and see how it works. That would be the ideal thing to do, is to keep the Kiko herd and build on it and see how it works, and don't just mix it up. You can you can you can't really measure their performance if you mix it. You get what I'm saying? Because you don't know what the pure genetics of the animal is doing if you mix it. You got to keep it pure, and then you can tell if they're thriving or if they just can't manage in the tropics here. Well, that's not true, Sir Jokes. He says any animal that can become hard. It's just the way how you grow them. And remember, you do select breeding, calling it. Well, if the animal is not naturally from the tropics, then they will have a hard time adjusting in the tropics. It's just simple. If an animal is naturally with a lot of coating and all that stuff, then it's just too hot for them, and they won't thrive. So that statement in theory sounds right, good. But if they're naturally not from the tropics, if they got too much hair on their body, if then they won't. They just won't survive. Davian has another comment. Here's one way to use a native. Push a Nubian strain buck through a few females. If you get females offspring, then you use them as a replacement doling. They should have some amount of length, height. Then use a nice graded boar buck on these offsprings. Build up a meat operation is a process. Yeah, it will take you a while, but um, commitment, if you're committed to it, then it will happen. You know what I mean? Or you could do what Damian Crawford did, just go buy a commercial herd. Yeah, but you could buy 20 graded animals. Yeah, 20 graded animals instead of waiting to get there. If you follow what Javion says, right? That's a 3 or 4 year process. When you could just go buy some graded animals. Well, I always think that if you get into business, then you must have some money to get into business. But if you're starting from the ground up and as a 20-year-old or 25-year-old and say, yo, this is what I'm gonna build up my thing, then there you go. You know what I mean? I believe every meat goat operator should spend quality time to develop a herd that produces the most meat, as meat will be your priority. Also, if you need milk, it is the same. You go for animal that produce the most milk to gain the most profit. Yeah, facts. It is what it is. If that's what you're into, put your focus into building an operation that gives you that result. Don't follow Cabo Ranch and start with graded goat, but you want milk. It's not no sense. Let me tell you, don't follow them. Them want milk and listen to people and go buy a whole of graded goat. And look on them now. Them still have to go back and go buy milk goat. Just a strip my drink, man. What you say about them? But you learn, right? You learn and you move on. And I'm telling people based on our experience and our mistakes, if it's what you really want to do in your gut, start there. Start building it from there. Because it will take you longer if you try to do something else and say you'll get there eventually. Now, it is a process and you build on it. And while you're building and making mistakes, you're gaining invaluable knowledge, especially about your own operation. And that's what matters. It's the knowledge you learn or gain from doing it. Yeah, there you go. It's a learning process. There you go. And there's no better learning process than your own experience, your own mistakes, your own failures and success. So if you're really going into meat and you've come up with a formula or a process that you think's gonna get you there in 3 years or 5 years, execute it. Stick to it and execute. If you strongly believe it will work, just continue at it. Record keeping. Write out your whole plan. Trudy over there, so the producer tell me what to say. Yeah, she said write out the whole plan. Write it out and follow it step by step. If you believe, like Avian says, start with your native, add a Nubian, then add a boar. Write it out and how long it's gonna take you. Write it out and follow and say, yo, by next year I should have some offsprings from the native that I can put to the boar. Like, just plan it out, write it out, and execute it accordingly. And record the data, show that the offspring is growing faster than the ones before. So you know you're making progress. You're getting more meat to bone ratio. You know what I mean? When you process it, the dress weight is more. That's data to know you're going in the right direction. Because at the end of the day, you want to sell more meat. You want to sell quality meat. You want your customers to say, yo, that's the best curry goat me ever have or make. Or way you do it, the way you do your goat, then why it tastes so good. That's what you want. You know what I'm saying? So stick to your plan. That will say, put your money where your mouth is until milk start flowing. If the funding is not available, always start what you have for sure. Exactly. Can't even say it better, Davil. That's what we did the last I go to. I think we did on that. If you want to get to meet things, start with what you have. You know what I mean? If you have the resources that can buy a bunch of goats, sure. But if you have 5 goats, write out a plan on how you plan to multiply them. Write it out. What is the plan? How you plan to do it? Because that means you have to retain a lot of offsprings to grow. But remember, offsprings are money. So what that really means is you're investing back in the business. Like your offsprings is your revenue. And if you're taking half your revenue from the business and put it right back in the business, that's investing back in the business. So, and if you can put a dollar value on each of those animals, say you get 10 offsprings and a dollar value of $50,000 for one of those dolings that you're going to put back in your system, you could have sell them for $50,000. So that's what, 500,000. Hmm? Yeah, that's what we call a bio asset that you're acquiring for your business. So I'm saying, don't worry, I'm not that smart. We learned that from this week from some international accountants. So I'm not that smart. And somebody told us that, oh, you got bioassets. That's what we call bioassets. I'm like, yeah, we got bioassets. I know. The things you learn when you try to make your business work, you learn these things here. Like, are we spending so much time learning these things and less time out there? Yeah, we're doing both. Yeah, so as I said, if you put animals back into your system, retain them, like you're investing in your business, you're growing your business, and there's a money, there's a value to that, like like cash value to it. So don't feel like say you're not really putting in. If you're retaining animals, you're putting in a lot. You're putting in a lot. Put a dollar value on it. You're like, oh, I just put in 500,000. I just put in $1 million in my business. A man say, oh, you did that. Where you get $1 million from? Well, you know what I mean. I like 50 goats born on the farm, and I kept some of them. Um, what else? Hmm? Who's that? Richard Green. Richard wants to know what is a graded goat. In Jamaica, a graded goat is a hybrid animal, a mixture of, yeah, typically it's a mixture of native, Nubian, and Boers in Jamaica. Or it could be just a mixture of two. whether it's native and Boer, or native and Nubian, or Nubian and Boer. Basically, it's just um, not full blood, not purebred. It's mixed. Um, any other questions or comments that we should address and talk about? If you don't have anything else, we can call it an early night and we will reschedule Khalil for another time. Next week, we're going to have a discussion on prairie larceny and what the prairie larceny unit is doing these days to help us farmers. What new initiatives they have, what new programs they're running. We're going to have, his name is Omar Pascal, Superintendent Omar Pascal, on next week. And he's going to give us the rundown on what they're doing in the prairie larceny unit and give us advice on security, what is legal, what's not legal. And I'm sure we're going to get into permits and all that. So, should be a good show. And I will give you guys um, news on when Khalil's coming for the rain check. Because I'm looking forward to that, because man, I got to beat him up. All right, guys. See you guys next week. And hopefully it's a great discussion next week on prairie larceny. And thank you guys for being here. Thanks for being a part of iGoat chat. And, big up to all the regulars. We had some new people here tonight. And we want to thank you guys for joining us. You could have been somewhere else, but you choose to be with us. And hopefully we give you some value, and hopefully you learn something from us as a group, as a family. And we have some knowledgeable people in iGoat chat, and some very, like, what they call it, interactive people that are willing to share information and jump in and even correct me when I'm way off base on some things. Once we jump in and say, "Oh, you're wrong, Ray, you're wrong," and we appreciate that. All right, so we'll see you guys next week, and have a great rest of your weekend. Peace, and we're out.